Welcome to The Creative Influencer, where we discuss all things creative with an emphasis on influencers. The Creative Influencer is hosted by John Pfeiffer. John is an entertainment attorney in Santa Monica, California, who represents influencers and other creatives.
This is episode 4 of the 6th season of the Creative Influencer podcast. Today we interview Christy Faith. Christy is a TikTok creator with a unique niche, and that is homeschooling. Christy built her following from zero in July of last year to almost 200,000 followers. There is something every influencer can learn from Christy about how she built her following. Christy talks about how she studied her popular and unpopular videos to learn what to emphasize and what to change in order to grow her following. And along the way, you learn a little something about a topic I knew nothing about, and that is homeschooling. Christy homeschools her 4 children, and then the process is nothing like I would expect it. If you want to grow your social media following, you're going to enjoy this interview. I am joined today by Christy Faith. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
You have almost 200,000 TikTok followers.
Not quite.
You're getting pretty close. I just checked last night.
Oh yeah, it's been fun.
Okay. So I want to ask you about 3 big things. How you built your TikTok following, your background, and then your homeschooling journey.
Okay.
So let's start with TikTok.
All right.
Tell me about the moment you decided to start a TikTok channel. And just for reference, I looked at your first post is July 11, 2021.
Yes. My real post, the first post that got traction was, I think, October 25th. But I don't remember if I privated those and then unprivated them, those initial ones. But yeah,
I'm fairly... very first one is you dancing.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. Well, during the pandemic, I, just like a lot of people who are now considered older, we got on TikTok because we were bored, right? And there were really cool people on the app. And I remember looking to my husband, Scott, and saying, this is what I've wanted social media to be my entire life. So what people don't know about me is I was never on any social media before TikTok. Not active on Facebook, not active on Instagram, none of it. But when I got my hands on TikTok and saw the realness there and how much fun people were having and how people could convey a message in a really compelling way or just spread kindness and generosity, I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I realized in that moment, like, wow, this is the future of social media, when just the regular old girl who lives in Denver, Colorado can get on there and then go viral overnight because she has something to say. And I loved watching these people go big. I love the way storytelling is done on TikTok. There's some really big TikTokers who got completely viral just by being good storytellers. And I also love short form. Maybe it's because I have the attention span of a gnat myself. But short form is really fun, and I find it challenging. It's really hard to write.
Now, TikTok, when you started, was 3 minutes. Now it's been up to 10-minute videos.
Yeah.
Do you have a sweet spot of what you aim for?
I have not done a 10-minute video. It's a goal of mine because I really want to start having a presence on YouTube, really only because I don't think it's smart to just be on one app. TikTok is known for just deleting people's accounts overnight. So it's a goal of mine in the next year to work on more long form. But I believe that a really good TikTok strategy is to do it all. So people that only do trending sounds that are under 15 seconds, they stop getting traction. People that only do the long droning on talking videos, people start to just scroll right along because they're like, I don't want to listen to Christy again for 3 straight minutes. So I really mix it up and have fun with it.
So I when, the first videos you did were the typical TikTok dancing videos. Then when did you decide it could be a platform for your homeschooling?
Pretty early on. I remember like within weeks, I started doing talking videos because of the comments that I got. I woke up the morning after it was a Reese Witherspoon voiceover is all I did. And I did something about how homeschooling can be done in only a couple hours a day. And I woke up the next morning with, I think, around 15,000 views, but that like, I'm a girl who's never been on social media. I could not believe that 15,000, I mean, I was nauseous. I couldn't eat for 6 weeks. I just couldn't believe it. But what was really startling to me was the comments. I had thousands of women overnight asking me, how do I start? How do I homeschool? And I realized, oh my goodness, like, where are the other homeschoolers on this app? And there weren't many. And there weren't many who were homeschooling TikTokers. So there are women on there with pretty big followings that they have their platform and they happen to homeschool and they're more lifestyle. But in terms of homeschool TikTokers, there wasn't really anyone. And I was thinking to myself, man, like, what if this could be, a business? Because I come from, and we can get into that later, I come from an educational background. So I have the credibility to speak on things of education and explain my own journey as to how I went from supporting conventional education with my whole heart to then kind of deconstructing and entering the homeschooling world. And that ended up moving us out of Los Angeles and into Denver even. So
let me pull back. You talked about comments.
Yeah.
Do you have comments enabled on TikTok now?
Comments on everything, yes.
Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being they really, really, really affect you, and 0 being, whatever. How do comments affect you?
Interesting. I love this question. Okay. Negative comments, 0.
Okay.
Positive comments, 6.
How have you been able to develop that filter to just kind of let the negative comments float off your back?
Part of it, honestly, is I realized very early that when people are having fights in my comments section, it just is a magnifier for my message. It just makes your video go viral. And so I stopped, I stopped being scared of what they have. First off, because I am an educated woman who my career was in education, I'm not just spouting opinion. I'm very careful that everything I say, I can back with research. So I always have that. I used to comment back to the trolls and the naysayers with all sorts of statistics and all of that. I kind of stopped. I have too many commenters now. I just do a video. Like, you can do a video response on TikTok. If I'm tickled, I'll do a video response on it. But overall, most people so there's a comment last week, and this comment was, okay, never let my kids have friends, check. And then the person did a check mark. And it's like, how ignorant, like, how could I be offended by that? Because if you think that homeschool families, that our kids have no friends, like, it's so ignorant. How could I even possibly be offended? So most people's comments when they are kind of homeschool haters, it's really out of ignorance. So yeah, they don't get to me. They help me.
So how often do you have a schedule of when you upload?
I do. I try to upload every day. I do not upload on Saturdays. When people first get on TikTok, all of the experts on TikTok, the growth experts, and I listen to all of them, they say, oh, post 3 to 5 times a day, and whatever you do, be consistent. I've never posted 3 to 5 times a day, ever. In fact, in the beginning, when I didn't know better, before there were all of these experts on TikTok telling people, creators, what to do, if a video went viral and it was getting good views, I just took the next day off and didn't post anything. So I was pretty inconsistent. But then I started to just get really great ideas. And so I generally post once a day. And then I never post on, I mean, I shouldn't say never. Sometimes if I have one, just a very relaxed thing that I just want to put out there, I'll put it out on Saturday. But I like having one day off where I don't look at the app too.
So, which leads into what strategies do you use to build your following?
Yeah. So I am extremely strategic when it comes to TikTok. I was a student of TikTok for a while before I even made my first video. And when I first went viral, the first thing I did is I analyzed, why did that go viral? Why did that pop? Then I kind of viewed it as a game. I'm naturally a pretty competitive person. And so I would look at videos that had over 1 million views and I would ask myself, why, what about that, right? And so there are components depending on the length of your video as to how to structure that particular video. So on TikTok, and I don't know what if you want me to go into this, but there's several factors. Okay, there's several.
A lot of our listeners are creators, so this is very helpful.
Okay. Oh, fantastic. So, and they might disagree, but this is just what's worked for me. I mean, it's pretty cool that a homeschooler has this many followers. I know it's not a lot of followers in terms of what is possible on TikTok, but I do think for my niche that I've kept things very homeschool and educational. I am pretty proud of the following that I've been able to gain. So in terms of strategies with TikTok, let's see, where were we? I generally do post during prime time. I feel like videos do better during prime time, and you can look in your analytics and see when your audience is on the app the most.
And you're talking TV prime time.
Yeah. Like between 7 and 7:30, some between 7 and 9. Those are kind of my sweet spots. But here's the thing that I want, if your listeners hear nothing, this is what I want them to hear. TikTok has more control than you think they have. You are not really in control. You don't even own your own platform. So one thing that's really helped me relax and be able to have a lot of fun on the app is knowing that, like, I could put out amazing content, and if it's just not the day, or like, unfortunately, this is an example, like when there was the Uvalde shooting, right? Like, right. That's what's going to be put out on TikTok, news regarding that. So creators that maybe, are doing other content, it's just going to be stuffed. It based on world events, based on their own algorithm, based on all sorts of things. There are even people that think, it's like every 50th video will pop. I know they are in control, but I just focus on making really good content. And on the other side of that, in terms of what a creator can control, we can control the quality of our content. We can control the structure of our videos. I mean, I feel like I'm responsible to make a video that's compelling, that someone wants to watch. If I have a video that bombs, I analyze that too. Okay, what exactly was wrong with that? But I also think a great strategy is touching all of the bases. So doing a 3-minute video, then a 1-minute video, then doing a trending sound, doing duets, doing all of it. It also helps you play and experiment, which is another big factor about TikTok that I love.
And how much do you incorporate storytelling into your videos?
Not as much as I want to. It's been an area that I really want to grow in. And I have that whole imposter syndrome. What story do I have to tell that's anybody would want to hear? But everyone I think has that problem, unless you have this amazing story of like, I was on drugs and on the street and now I'm this. I don't know. But it's an area that I really want to grow in. I also think it's an area that is smart to grow in strategically for the TikTok accounts. It's definitely in
What has surprised you about this whole process?
What has surprised me? How my life literally changed overnight.
How so? Tell us about that.
I went from being nobody to then, I'm at a conference and they're like, hey, wait, are you, so first of all, just being recognized places was at homeschool conferences. It's not like I go to my local grocery store and they're like, oh my God. Like, yeah.
Let me stop you because I want to know about the first time somebody recognized you. Tell me about that and what that felt like.
Yeah. So I was nervous because I had a feeling someone might. When I was I flew to a homeschool conference that I was planning to go to with my sister. We bought the tickets even before TikTok even happened. And I had a feeling because some of my followers said, I mentioned on social media, I'm going to be there. And some of my followers were like, I'm going to be there too. But no, there was a lady in a hallway and I was walking by and she goes, wait a minute. Wait, are you on Instagram? And I said, yeah. Are you Christy Faith? And I said, yeah. And then she was sitting down, like she had a stroller and a baby. And I just sat down with her and I said, are you one of my followers? And she said, yes. And so I made sure to find her and then I followed her back. And then it was really sweet because later on she wrote, I saw in a comment section, like, if anyone's embarrassed to talk to Christy Faith, please do. I'm so glad I broke through my nerves and talked to her. So
you're a celebrity.
Yeah, at homeschool conferences, 2 people recognize me, John. Let's be real.
We all have our audience.
Yeah, exactly. But that was strange. And then in terms of everything else, I've always been an entrepreneur. So I realized the day after I went viral that I should probably start a business. And I didn't know what that was going to be. That's still always changing. But just, once I got to about 50,000 followers, I started being invited on podcasts, and just all sorts, brands approaching me for making content for them. And the process has been fun, but it's been a challenge because it's been a year of everything new, even meeting you. All right, I guess I need an entertainment lawyer. All right, okay, I guess I need this. I guess I need that.
So full disclosure, we work together.
Yes. Are we allowed to say that?
Yeah. You
Okay.
just said it.
Well, I don't know if you edit this after, do you?
No, I rarely do.
That's
unless
great.
somebody really, says something I don't want on the podcast, then I want the flow.
Well, since you don't edit it, I just want your audience to know how appreciative I am of you and how generous in spirit you are and how you have really provided comfort for me in this journey. And I thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. It's great working with you.
Thanks.
Let's transition.
Okay. We're not going to talk about you. We can talk about you.
No. This is about you. Okay, so let's transition. Your background, you have an undergraduate degree in history.
Yes.
A graduate degree in history.
Yes.
And then you started to teach. How many years did you teach?
I taught 2. Well, I taught my whole career, but I taught in a classroom.
Yes.
For 2. And we were young, poor, married, and I was in graduate school and we had to pay the bills. And so I taught while I was doing graduate school.
And
I loved it.
That expanded into tutoring.
It did. Right. So initially my life aspiration was to be a college professor and to be a historian. That was my plan. I even did a little bit here and there of like adjunct stuff right after I graduated and got my master's. Realized quickly I did not like teaching higher education and I missed my 7th graders. And so, yeah, that's how I just got the teaching bug. But what I will say is I never thoroughly enjoyed classroom teaching. What happened is I was a decent teacher and parents started asking me if I could tutor their kids after school. Well, my very first tutoring session, I came home and I said, Scott, this is what I'm going to do. I loved this. I've done in 50 minutes what it takes me 2 weeks to do in a classroom. That was so fun. And then interesting, what's really cool is that particular tutoring session was a 4th grade little boy. We tutored him and helped him with everything, even all of his test prep and everything through UCLA. And
I
so,
heard that. I had
Yeah.
heard that. The very first pupil,
Yep.
a tutoring pupil, you went through UCLA with.
yep. And what's crazy is we're going to be in LA, and we still text him, and we're going to drinks with him. It's like, you're old enough to have drinks, man. But that's going to be so fun to see. Yeah. And there's another kid that we're seeing too, but they're adults now. Yeah. But
Then you started tutoring.
Yep.
How did that grow?
it grew. Within 3 weeks, I had a waiting list. And I think it was one of those things where when it just is right, it just clicks. My enthusiasm, I think, was just contagious. My happiness and my satisfaction in doing that I think it was just evident. And I loved it. And so within 3 weeks, I had a wait list, and I started out going house to house. Quickly, Scott said, we should hire someone that can do math. So we did. Within a couple of years, we opened our very first location. And, at one point we had, I think it was like 25 or 27 specialists working for us. We did it a while.
What was yours? I mean, you have a history background, but the subjects you felt the most comfortable tutoring were what?
All the humanities. All the humanities.
You currently homeschool your children, correct?
Yes, I do.
And you have 4 children, including twins.
Yes. Well, you've done your homework.
Yes, indeed. I told you I was going to do a deep dive. And tell me how that process works. I mean, I'm pretty sure it is all in the same room, a la Little House on the Prairie, or do you have them separated?
Yeah, I love this question because people are very curious. And also, I work. So how does a working mom homeschool her children? By the way, a lot of working moms do. It's just this day and age.
So I'm going to ask you to answer your rhetorical question. How does a working mom homeschool their children?
Yeah. You have a messy house. No, I'm just kidding. We have a strategy for that. No. So the way homeschooling works is nothing like what you see in conventional schools. So if you want to do it without being miserable. So yes, can you buy a program that has each and every kid separately in that school year in front of a computer screen all day, doing all the subjects and spending 7 hours doing them? Yes, you can homeschool that way. It's a style. There's 6 different styles of homeschooling. That style is called traditional. Most families, if they start out that way, they don't end up that way. It doesn't last. You either quit homeschooling or you burn out. The way homeschooling really is done across America and elsewhere is very much one room schoolhouse. So there are many subjects that do not need to be taught by grade level. So history is the perfect example. Science in the elementary years, that's not a grade level thing. You can just gather all your kids and do science together, and that type of a thing. And then there are grade level subjects like math. Each of my kids is in a separate grade level for math. When you teach your little ones to read, that is one-on-one, right? You got to do that. It happens pretty quickly though. And basically I have, by the age of about 8 or 9, I have my kids pretty much on the road to being autodidacts, which is what we want. An autodidact is basically a self-taught person. So I don't like the idea of a kid plopping down in their desk and staring at their teacher, and they even need to be told what page they're on. They wait. Like, I believe in self-directed learning, and I think that it sparks curiosity a lot better too. So I make sure to buy materials that foster that, where if I am busy, like on a podcast right now, you can still open your book and do that lesson to the best of your ability. And then I can check on it later. So it's not that I meet with all of my kids. In fact, with my oldest, we have an appointment time every day. and we go over all of the work. And then we also have the in-depth discussions regarding the literature, for example. We have that at our appointment time. But overall, my oldest can do 90% of his school day on his own with world-class materials.
And what is, well, two questions come to mind. How did you develop the curriculum? I mean, I assume this is an evolving thing over time. And then two, I'm gonna throw out both questions at once. I hate doing this, but I'm gonna do it before I forget them. And then two, take me through an average homeschooling day. So let's first go with the curriculum.
Okay, first off, we don't write our own curriculum. We buy it. And there are even free options online. If their parents are really on a budget, you can even get homeschooling done for absolutely free. So basically what homeschooling is a parent is sourcing the materials. And this is what is really wonderful, because all the time, almost on every single live, I get a parent asking me, but I'm not good at math. What am I going to do when my kid's in high school? To which I say, none of us teach high school math. None of us do.
What do you do? So if you're a non-calculus person, what do you do?
Yeah, so there's so many options. One, there's live online academies that are so the woman who teaches my child Latin has her degree in classical languages from Stanford. So unlike public schools or even private schools, you cannot choose your teacher. You cannot choose even your curriculum. You have to go with what they're going with. When you are a homeschooler, you have the freedom. You can decide what language you want your kids to learn, with whom, and with what book and what materials. So the different ways that we outsource our homeschooling is live online academies. Most of us are in co-ops. A lot of us do cottage schools. A cottage school is, there's different versions of it, but it's where you send your child somewhere maybe twice a week. And there is a teacher that's teaching a small group, like a Little House on the Prairie situation, like a one-room schoolhouse. And then you're doing homeschooling the other days of the week. It's very common for private schools to offer homeschool enrichment days. And there's we don't use this one, but there's one 5 minutes from our house where the child goes 2 days a week and they're doing the heavy hitter subjects there. And then you're doing homeschooling on the other days. That's more of like a part-time homeschooling situation, but it's still wonderful because the parents are in the driver's seat. And then of course there's scripted curriculum. So parents who are very insecure, for example, about teaching their kid how to read, there's amazing resources where you literally read the script. You cannot mess it up. You read the script. And then, so it's a misconception that, in fact, I think homeschooling high school is one of the most important times to homeschool a kid.
No, I mean, in hearing this answer, I don't homeschool. We send our kids to traditional school, but it just made my shoulders relax because I'm thinking I couldn't teach chemistry.
No, I can't either.
How you could do it. So now the second question is, take me through your typical homeschool day.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm your kids. What time do you get them up?
So my kids have alarms and there are different times of the day. And what I'm going to include, I'm going to tell you everything because I think that anyone who's considering homeschool, it helps to have a window because you also, especially since I work, you have to be organized. And so I can share how I've done that because we don't really separate schoolwork from like kitchen cleanup, like it's all part of our day. So my kids wake up to alarms. They're expected to make their bed and pick up their rooms. We let them kind of play in their rooms at night. And so their rooms get thrashed. And so at least when they wake up in the morning, their room has to be tidy and they have to make their bed. My oldest starts math. My oldest does math twice a day. That's just the policy because we use a very rigorous, math is important to us and we use a very rigorous program. My younger ones, they start something called memory work. Have you heard of that before?
I have not.
Okay.
Or if I have, I don't remember.
Okay. Memory work is basically, think of how Abraham Lincoln was educated and even like Frederick Douglass educated himself. He memorized. The reason why Frederick Douglass was such an amazing orator is because he had a book of the best speeches of all time. and he memorized those speeches. And so I definitely believe in memory work. So my kids memorize math facts. They memorize basic Latin, foreign language declensions and things like that. They memorize little history sentences to jingles so that they can remember things about history, so that when later on in the junior high and high school years, they have this framework that they can plug in because they have this understanding from their early childhood.
Okay, so the memory work, does that include when they're younger, the math tables?
Yep. Yeah, we do skip counting and all of that. That's all included in memory work. And if you are a faith-based homeschooler, usually you memorize little Bible verses. What else? Oh yeah, we memorize science. So like Newton's law, even though they might not fully understand it, when they get to it later, they'll have it'll be easier to comprehend later because they have this piece memorized when they're younger.
Foundation. Now, as I was talking to my wife about this, she said that means that Christy has to be the lunch lady too.
Yes. I just
so you get all aspects of homeschooling.
Yeah. And I just did a TikTok on the downsides of homeschooling, and food preparation was one of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
It just popped into my head, but do you allow your children unsupervised time on the computer?
Unsupervised.
Unsupervised.
Yes. Yeah. In a limited capacity.
Do you allow them on social media?
No.
At what age? At some point, they'll try to sneak on social media.
Oh yeah.
At what age are you going to sanction it and say, okay, it's okay?
You know, we haven't decided, but what I will say, my general parenting philosophy is not to shelter, is to, while I want them to experience things like experimenting with, for example, you know how video game addiction is kind of a big thing among kids now.
Yeah.
Rather than me controlling video games and saying, you only get this much time and this and that, rather than me imposing that on my kids, I want to teach them to make healthy choices for themselves while they're still under my roof, even if that includes failing. And so in general, that's how we view our parenting. So when my kids get on social media, I think we will give them probably more freedom than maybe some people are comfortable with, because I want to train them while they're under my roof. I don't want them to leave my house and have no skills, life skills or coping skills to manage those things on their own. But Scott and I haven't decided about when they're going to get their first phone or when they're going to get their first TikTok. I do think social media, and I think having the internet in your pocket is dangerous. I do know, I have read the research on child development and brain development, and that a lot of kids do not have the ability to stop themselves and that. So I think all of that needs to be taken into account, along with your kids' level of maturity as to what they're ready for.
Shifting gears again.
Yeah.
Just the homeschooling in general.
Yeah.
What are the demographics? Men versus women. What percentage of the homeschoolers, the primary teachers, are women versus men?
The majority are women.
And is there an age when most people start homeschooling?
There really isn't. Some people plan to homeschool from the very beginning, and then some people homeschool because their kid, the school system is no longer serving them for whatever reason. Either the kid has special needs and they need to find another situation, or, what I will say is that what the pandemic showed parents and why homeschooling grew, but not why you think it did. Because the numbers, when schools reopened, the homeschooling numbers were still larger. Parents saw what their kids were learning, and they kind of had realizations like, so one friend called me up one day and said, my kid was just assigned to read an unbiased news source on this particular topic. And the list of approved news outlets were all leaning to one side. She's like, I had no idea. And so things like that, I think parents saw what was really happening. They could look at the curriculum. Parents also realized we don't need 7 hours for this. We don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is your view of, I mean, because it happened for about 1.5 years.
Yeah.
Some places 2 years, schooling on Zoom.
Yes. So what that is not homeschooling.
Right.
What?
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm 100% aware of that.
Yeah.
I was, for 2 semesters, I taught my class at Pepperdine on Zoom. And it's obviously not homeschooling, and it's a completely different experience. But I'm curious your view on it as somebody that is knowledgeable about teaching.
Yeah. Well, I think that it didn't work out well. I think teachers were really struggling, kids were struggling, parents were struggling. I think it was really unfair because here we have parents who are trying to work full time, and then this is kind of thrown on them. So it was very overwhelming. And I don't really think, I think if you have your kid on a screen all day for learning, I think you're missing out on what homeschooling can be, because it can be a rich experience of family connection. And if your child is on screens all day, it's not really homeschooling. And so that made me sad, because a lot of kids can't learn that way either. So it was kind of unfortunate, but everyone did their best.
Well, again, from a personal level, I mean, it happened overnight. And
Yeah.
And we're talking Pepperdine professors had 10-year-old Dell laptops that they were going to do this on. You have to have the equipment if you're going to do it right.
Yeah.
And that took everybody a good 4 or 5 months to get set up.
Yeah.
I mean, now, and you roll that out across the nation.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me get back to demographics. Are there areas of the country where homeschooling is bigger than other areas?
Yeah, I would say that in the South, Bible Belt, Texas. It's interesting though, the majority of all of my most recent consultations are not with faith-based have not been with faith-based families. I think homeschooling is growing outside of what people traditionally think that homeschooling demographic is. Interestingly, homeschooling started in the 1960s with hippies. It didn't start as kind of a religious movement. 40% of homeschoolers are not white, and people don't realize that. And homeschooling among Black families has grown exponentially. The numbers are crazy. I think it's grown 500%. And I can
Really?
double check that number, but that's the last number that I checked. Maybe I checked it about 6 months ago. So Scott just gave me a thumbs up that number was right. It's pretty exciting.
Coaching from the sidelines.
Yeah, he's right there.
So you had mentioned earlier a homeschooling convention.
Yeah.
What kind of resources are out there for people to utilize?
There's too many. There are too many resources. Man, if you are a secular homeschool, you can buy all sorts of curriculum. There's even a curriculum called Woke History. There's so much out there. And you can find faith-based curriculum. There's 6 different homeschooling styles. And within those styles, there's curriculum companies that serve families that educate in that style. And one thing that's really interesting that Americans don't realize is the education that is occurring in our both public and private school system is largely one style out of the 6. And that's called traditional schooling, where you have different subjects, blocks of time, everything's kind of separate. Whereas there's other styles of homeschooling like Charlotte Mason and classical, even unschooling, that are a completely different approach.
So this is my second to last question.
Okay.
What questions haven't I asked that I should have asked?
Oh. What questions haven't you asked that you should have asked?
Nothing coming to mind. It puts my mind at ease.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, here is my last question. Where can people find you on the internet?
People can find me on my TikTok, which is Christy Faith, and on Instagram, which is Christy Faith Homeschool. And I'm also on Facebook and YouTube and all the things. I go live every Friday. I love going live. I love connecting. And yeah,
So
people can
thank
reach
you.
out to me. Thank
And
you.
We'll be right back.
That's it for this time. If you enjoyed our podcast, please write a review on iTunes and tell your friends to subscribe. If you have any questions about influencers or suggestions for future episodes, email them to John at Pfeiffer@pfeifferlaw.com. Thank you for listening.